Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is attending the Anti-Corruption Summit in London Thursday, hosted by British Prime Minister David Cameron. Secretary Kerry told Oxford University students on the eve of the summit that the U.S. is working with countries like Nigeria to combat corruption.
We have to stop and ask on an international basis how it is that a bunch of generals in a country like Nigeria, which had happened previously, and the new president has run against all of this, and we're working with him now to change it. But Nigeria saw tens of billions of dollars taken out of the country. Those were schools, those were healthcare, those were infrastructure. There was new jobs hidden in bank accounts around the world.
Its goal is to step up global action to expose, Spanish and drive out corruption at all levels of society, and is calling into question the practices of rich nations like Britain and the United States. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari is attending the one-day summit in London. Well, for some analysis on the summit, Maggie Murphy of Transparency International joins me live via Skype from London. Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you.
Now, first, would you say that, I mean, you attended the summit all day. Did it achieve its objective?
There was a huge amount of optimism and a large amount of potential for this summit. You can hear around me that the summit is just closing down. So what we're interested in now is whether a lot of the commitments that were made today will actually turn into action.
Now, we're talking about the commitments. One of the commitments should be, of course, to make sure that no corrupt person takes monies out of the country, let's say out of Africa, and stashes that in Europe or Britain. What is binding about that commitment?
Well, one of the interesting things about this summit was that it's shed a light on the fact that corruption is a global problem. It's not just a developing country issue. That is quite an outdated perspective, especially when you think about the Panama Papers scandal and other major scandals involving richer countries in recent years. So here we had a summit that brought together richer countries as well as poorer countries to try to come together with a joined-up approach. The commitments that were made were bold for some countries, but were lacking in other countries. We have seen some progress on some issues to crack down on just how easy it is for individuals to transfer money from one developing country into a richer country. But the proof will be in how quickly and how effectively those measures are enforced.
But again, here is, of course, working on the systems themselves, because if it is a question of corrupt people, there are corrupt people who will facilitate corruption in the Western nations and as well as other nations.
So one of the interesting statements that was made today was about the middlemen, the lawyers, the accountants, the bankers, the professionals. We've not seen such vocal commitments from global leaders before on this issue of those people in the middle that actually make a profit out of transferring corrupt cash. There was a statement. There was also a statement from some of those professionals themselves saying that they were committed to tackling corruption and driving it out. And there was some language on the idea that perhaps if those professionals were found to be complicit, they would be driven out. They would not be allowed to work anymore. That's nice language. It just depends on what will happen in practice.
Now, very quickly, in terms of the monies that have already been taken out of corrupt countries, what kind of assurances were made that all that money can be taken back to the countries of origin?
President Buhari yesterday and today was very vocal in his call for stolen assets to come back home. And I think that message got through. We heard tonight that there will be a global asset recovery forum scheduled for after the summit, perhaps next year. And that shows that there should be more willingness, hopefully from rich countries, to actually return the money that is currently situated in London or perhaps in the US or other rich countries. So again, the commitment's there, but we need to see whether that will lead to something.
Well, Maggie, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
Well, it's Maggie Murphy of Transparency International speaking to us live via Skype from London.